O предвічний, народився, прийшов днес із небес, щоб спасти людстві весь, і утішився. Прийшов днес із небес, щоб спасти людстві весь, і утішився. Слава Христос рождається! Славіть Його! Christ is born. Let us glorify Him. So, this is Father Basil Malovany again, and I hope everyone's enjoying your Christmas, wherever you are in the world. And here in my area of Canada, Saskatchewan, it's very cold, a lot of snow, so it's winter time. It's definitely winter in our part of the world. So today I want to talk a little bit about a topic that most people probably don't have much information about and probably don't know much about at all. And that is spiritual warfare. And you might say to yourself, what am I talking about? What is spiritual warfare? Well, spiritual warfare is very simple. It's the battle between good and evil. And we have to get a little background about this. We know as Catholics, we believe that God created the entire world and the entire universe and everything that came in it. So all the angels were created, all humanity was created, all the animals, the plants, everything, the mountains, anything that is in this world was created by God. So when God created the angels, I did a podcast, I think a couple months ago, about the classes of angels and who the angels are. So who we call the devil or Satan today was actually an angel of God. So Satan was created. Satan didn't always exist in the history. So Satan was a creation of God just like we are. Being a fallen angel, Satan, like all angels, had that free will to either choose to follow God or choose to go against God's will. That is, to be oppositional to God and to basically battle God in everything that God does. So there was a war in heaven. A battle broke out between those angels that followed God and those angels who did not want to follow God. And of course, St. Michael the Archangel was the leader of the good angels and basically won the battle, and the demons and the devil and Satan were all thrown out of heaven and eventually ended up in what we call now hell, where they are forever, because of their arrogance, because of their hatred towards God, they never ever want to be in God's presence. So it was their decision to never ever be with God forever, for all eternity. So the first thing that we have to remember about spiritual warfare is that God is the most powerful, because God created the devil. The devil did not create himself. The devil was a creation of God like we are, and the devil chose as a fallen angel to be away from God forever and ever and ever. So, we have to use that knowledge for our advantage, because the devil is nowhere near as powerful as God is. We think that good and evil are equal in their power, but they aren't. God who is all good, God who is all loving, God who is all powerful and all knowledgeable, is the most powerful being ever. There's nothing that could be as powerful as God, because God is the one who created everything. Before God created everything in the universe, it never existed. Okay, including the devil. The devil and all the angels never existed before God created them. So we have to be so careful not to give the devil that power that he does not have, because the devil is powerless unless we give him that power, right? He's just a fallen creature, a fallen angel. That's all the devil is. So anyways, the devil and the demons are always trying to lead us away from God. They are always trying to lead our souls into hell, to be outside of God's kingdom forever, just like they are. They made that decision themselves to be away from God, and they want all of humanity to also make that decision to disobey God and be in hell forever. Okay? So this is the background for where spiritual warfare comes in. All right? So we are battling the devil's temptations every single day of our lives. Every minute, every second, really. The devil and the demons are trying to put thoughts in our head to take us away from God's love and mercy. And they do this in many different ways. They do it through, telling us that we can break the commandments of God, telling us that we can be selfish, that we can, do anything we want. We don't need God in our lives. We don't need to pray. We don't need to be kind and gentle to each other. We only need to worry about ourselves. All these thoughts, all these negative feelings that we get come from the devil. Comes from the devil and his demons, who are trying to tempt us to break God's commandments and to be away from God forever. So how do we battle these temptations? How do we battle, the devil and all his demons who are constantly trying to get us to commit sin, get us to not follow God's will? Well, if we look at the lives of all the Old Testament prophets, all the Old Testament figures, there are New Testament apostles and followers of Jesus, and of course the saints that even live today. What is it that they have in common from all the different centuries that they lived? Well, I think they had in common a few different things. First of all, they were prayerful. They never, ever forgot to pray to God every single day of their lives, especially in times of distress, and especially at times where their lives were not going very well, And that's what the devil again uses. When our life has obstacles, when our life has difficulties in it, the devil uses those times to say, well, look, God is not who he said he is. He's not helping you now. You got to fend for yourself. You don't need God's help. You don't need God anymore. You could use the things of this world to help forget all your problems. And this is where addictions come in, alcohol and drugs and sex abuse and the worldly things that we could, we become too worldly. We want to forget our issues. So we have these addictions that we're just focused on a certain thing and forget everything else in the world. And this is where, again, the devil is trying to tempt us to do this, especially when we have many difficulties in our mental health, our physical health. Might be we might be ill in those ways, and the devil is saying, the things of this world are more important than God. The things of this world are going to help you forget your problems. So let's focus on those things and focus away from God. See, and even the saints, every single person in the world, even Jesus himself. If you remember, when Jesus was tempted before his ministry, he began his ministry, the devil is trying to tempt us constantly to go away from doing God's work in this world, So, again, what are those saints and Old Testament figures do to prevent the devil from ruining their lives? Well, again, the prayer, number one, always being prayerful in every situation, especially during tough times, during times when it seems like there is nobody else there to help them, when they seem to be all alone. They never forgot the grace of God in their life and always turned to Him instead of turning to those other worldly things that many people today turn to, the drugs and alcohol and other things to try to get them to forget their problems. So that's number one. I think secondly, what these saints had in common through all the centuries is their good works for one another. They always were thinking about others first instead of thinking of themselves first. And when we do that, when we're thinking of others first, doing good works, praying for one another, helping one another whenever we see someone that needs help, that is, again, saying to the devil, I do not want you in my life. I am going to serve God through my works, through my words, through my actions. I'm going to praise God constantly through this, and I'm going to show the love of the Trinity through my actions in my life, And the devil is taken aback by that, because everything the devil did ever since his fall from heaven has been to lead us against God. So when we are doing things for God, when we are doing things for God's kingdom, the devil just gets very, very angry and very upset, and is trying doubly hard to get us to get to tempt us from doing these actions. But every time we do these actions, every time we follow the commandments, every time we are going to church and receiving the sacraments, receiving that sanctifying grace, the devil gets weaker and weaker and weaker in our lives, because we are asking God to be there as a protection against the devil. And in one of my podcasts I did about the angels, I talked about the guardian angel. Every single person has a guardian angel, and these angels, we should pray to them constantly as well, because they are the ones that have given us by God to protect us from the demons, specifically from the demons, to help us make good decisions in our lives, to grow in holiness, to grow in faith, and to do the things that God has asked us to do. So again, the first thing was prayer. Second thing, good works that these saints did all through the history of our world. And then the third thing, of course, is fasting. Even Jesus had to fast. Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights right before the devil tried to tempt him. And Jesus fasted many different times, again, before his crucifixion, he was fasting. Before many of the important events of his ministry, he went away and fasted and prayed to get that spiritual strength to do his mission on this earth. So, unfortunately, fasting in our society is not really looked upon very much, very well. People think, well, why should I abstain from certain foods? Why should I cut down on what I'm going to eat and drink? I work hard for my money. I should get what I want. I should, do what I want because I'm a hard worker. And again, nobody's saying that we're not hard workers. But if we are having that mentality that we can do whatever we want in this world, this is when the devil is going to jump on us again and say, aha, see, you don't need God. You don't need anything to do with God in your life. You can just do it all yourself. And then we become, again, very arrogant. We become self-centered. We become so far away from God that the devil just loves that. He wants us to sin and sin and sin and sin some more and say, well, you don't need to do all those church rules. You don't need to go to church anymore. You can watch it online now. You could do this and this. You don't, this worry about yourself. Worry about your own needs and not about anyone else. The devil always is going to work on our weaknesses, our spiritual weaknesses. He's going to do things to cause us to really have to bear down and think about what is our purpose in life, Is if the purpose in our life is only to make money and to get material things, then the devil is winning. The devil is definitely winning. And he's that much closer from taking our souls away from God forever. See, our purpose in life is to love and to be loved. To be loved by God and to love one another as God loves us. That is the golden rule, right? To love one another, a whole mind, a whole soul, and a whole heart. That was right from the Jewish tradition as well. The Jews, the chosen people of God, knew that their whole life was to love and to be loved. And we Christians have that same mission to love one another through our actions, through our words, through our self-giving, whether in marriage, in our relationships, anything. We always have to have self-love. Okay? So, again, the tools we use for spiritual warfare, the big ones, the biggest tools we can always use are prayer, good works, and fasting. Those are the main tools that we can use to battle the devil when he's tempting us in every day of our lives. And of course, we're not perfect human beings, so we are going to fail sometimes, and we are going to sin, and we are going to sometimes be succumb to the devil's temptations. And this is where in our tradition, the Catholic tradition, we have the Sacrament of Reconciliation. Any time we commit a sinful act, a mortal sin, even venial sins, according to what the Western Church teaches, the difference between mortal and venial sins. Mortal sins are sins against the commandments, and venial sins are the lesser sins. But any time we sin, we should, have a examination of conscience and go to confession. And again, one of my podcasts I talked about, I believe, the Sacrament of Confession as well. So, our spiritual battle against the devil is never ending. It's continuous our entire lives, just as it was for the Old Testament figures, the Old Testament prophets, from Adam down to us today. We are always battling the temptations of the devil. And, I would encourage all of you who are listening today to read more about spiritual warfare in our Catholic tradition. There's many, many good books. I've been starting to read some books as well about spiritual warfare and the different saints. Every saint, it doesn't matter what saint you read about, they have to battle the devil's temptations in their lives. And, if you want to talk about the most recent saints in our Catholic Church, Saint Mother Teresa, or Pope John Paul II, who were made saints not too long ago. You can read about their lives. You can read about Padre Pio. He's one of my favorites as well to read about, and how he was battling temptations. The devil was trying to make him commit these sinful acts, and he was constantly battling the devil's temptations his entire priesthood and life. So read up about spiritual warfare from these sources if you can. Just go on the internet and type their name and read about them. Read about what they did to overcome their sinful temptation, the temptations that came from the devil. But again, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, we have to understand that God is the most powerful. The devil does not ever have the power that God has, because the devil is a created being, is a created fallen angel. So to say that the devil has the same power of God is nonsense. It's not possible. The devil cannot create by himself. The devil cannot do anything by himself unless we give him that power to lead us away from God. He has no power whatever unless we give it to him. So thank you for listening for my podcast today. This is the week I have Christmas holidays, so I might be doing a few podcasts this week since I have a little bit of free time. So God bless you, and Christos Rezdaitsia, Savityaha.